out here doing? Well, my name is Cisar, and I work for a nonprofit called Golden Sands RC&D. And out here today, I'm looking for aquatic invasive species, whether they're plants or animals that aren't native to this lake. And then when I'm done with my survey, I give that information back to the lake group so they can make the proper decisions. Today we're going to talk about aquatic invasive species and how they're invading our waters. So before we begin, I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. So what do you think it means for something to be an invasive species? This question is kind of a multiple choice, select all that apply. So do you think an invasive species, A, is a species that upsets the ecosystem, B, is an animal, C, is a plant, or D, is a species that doesn't upset the ecosystem? If you said that the answer was the first three, a species that upsets the ecosystem, an animal, and a plant, you'd be correct. The other question I want to ask, and this is a little bit more of a thinking question than a multiple choice, is what do you think it means for something to be invasive? Now, I really want you guys to think about this. So, if it's invasive, it means that it's not native to the area, whether that's meaning it's not native to Wisconsin or if it's not native to the United States. But more in depth, it means that this animal or plant doesn't have any natural predators or even parasites where it's currently living or invading. It also means that the native species aren't able to compete with this new invasive. And lastly, it means that an invasive species is aggressive, or that it matures early, not allowing those native species to outcompete it, and or that it reproduces really fast. So now that we have a better understanding of what an aquatic invasive species is, meaning a plant or an animal that's brought into an area where they don't belong and then have the ability to take over, I want you guys to think about if you know of or think of any plants or animals in Wisconsin that might be an aquatic invasive species, and what are they? Some really common ones in the state of Wisconsin might be zebra mussels, these little black and white striped mussels that stick to the hard surfaces around the lake or wash up on our beaches, and we cut our feet on them because they have really sharp shells. Another common one in Wisconsin is Eurasian water milfoil. This plant can grow so thick and dense that it grows right up to the surface of the water and impacts what we're able to do on our lakes and rivers. So, getting into a little bit more about what these three characteristics of an aquatic invasive species are. So first, the idea that this invasive plant doesn't have natural predators or parasites. Purple loosestrife is a great example. This plant is native to Europe, and it does so well throughout the United States because, unlike in Europe, it doesn't have its natural predators here to keep that plant in check. What that means is that in Europe, there's a little beetle, and it eats this pesky wetland plant, which prevents it from growing into a big, broad, 7-foot tall plant. Another invasive species that kind of fits our characteristics of an aquatic invasive species is Eurasian water milfoil. As the name suggests, Eurasian, it's native to Europe and Asia. This plant is the first plant to grow in the spring, which means it's using up all the nutrients and sunlight, not allowing the native plants that come up later in the spring to use those same nutrients and sunlight. And lastly, our third characteristic is that these species are aggressive. They mature early, and maybe they even reproduce really quickly. Rusty crayfish, which is native to the United States, but not native to Wisconsin. It's originally from the Ohio River Basin, are one of our top aggressive invasive species. They fight off our native crayfish and push them out of their homes and eat all of the food around the area. So, kind of already mentioned that these last three aquatic invasive species, one is from the United States, the rusty crayfish, but he's from the Ohio River Basin. And the zebra mussel is also from Europe, as is the Eurasian water milfoil and the purple loosestrife. So, how does something that is in a whole other continent, like Europe, cross an ocean and get all the way to Wisconsin? This is another question I really want you guys to think about. How does a plant, a rooted plant like Eurasian water milfoil, come from Europe and Asia and get all the way into our lakes in Waupaca County or anywhere in Wisconsin? Did a plant like Eurasian water milfoil grow wings and fly 4,000 miles? I don't think they hitched a ride on an airplane either. So maybe you're thinking that it hitched a ride on a boat that crossed the ocean. Well, you're definitely close. If you think about all of your toys and clothes that say made in China, they're actually shipped in these big ocean-going ships. And these ships have ballast tanks that are actually filled with water to help weigh them down and help them balance across the ocean. These ships actually come into the United States, into the Midwest, through the St. Lawrence River Seaway, and right into our backyard into Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. So now that they're in the Great Lakes, how do they make it into our inland lakes, like the Waupaca chain? How are they moving from lake to lake or river to river? This is something else I want you guys to think about. I still don't think these plants or zebra mussels have grown wings to move from one water body to the other. So how are they making that journey? Oh, you think maybe people help them out? Well, I think you're spot on. A lot of these invasive species are being moved from lake or river to another water body because they're being hauled on our boats and our trailing equipment. So we know about invasive species. We know they're here, but why should you and I care? Well, in order for you guys to help understand this, I want you to think about, what do you like to do on our lakes and rivers in Wisconsin? Go ahead, share. Do you like to water ski or tube? Or are you a fisherman or woman? Do you prefer to paddle in kayaks and canoes? Or maybe you just like to swim and enjoy the view? So think about all those things that you guys just said you like to do. If you are out on a lake and it's got this invasive Eurasian water milfoil and it's growing so thick that it looks like this, it's all coming up to the surface of the water and looks green and scummy, are you going to want to do those things that you just thought about? Skiing, swimming, paddling through plants in areas that look like this? It's going to be kind of gross. But they also can impact people who like to fish on our lakes and rivers, because plants like Eurasian water milfoil that are invasive can grow so thick that it's not good habitat for fish to live in. Another invasive species that can impact fisheries is zebra mussels. Did you know that zebra mussels actually eat the base of our food chain? So they're eating all of those little microscopic insects and other things that our fish feed on. So not only are these impacting how we like to recreate on the lake, but they're also impacting what type of fishery we have in our waters. And just to take it another step, when you're done spending a day at the lake, how many of you guys like to go and get ice cream nearby? I know I do. Well, if your lake looks like this, and people don't want to swim there, and they don't want to go skiing there, and the fishing isn't very good anymore, how much business are your summer ice cream shops going to get in the summer? Well, if you're not going, it's pretty likely that other people aren't going to that lake to recreate either, which means the businesses in the area are also being impacted by these invasive species. So, aquatic invasive species are here, and people are the reason they get moved from lake to lake. So, if we're the ones out on our lakes and rivers, what can we do? Well, we can stop aquatic hitchhikers. Like we said, invasive species are moving from lakes and rivers across the United States and across Wisconsin because of people like us, from our boats and our trailers. So the best thing we can do is make sure they aren't hitching a ride with us when we leave. Make sure that when you leave a boat landing to check your boat and equipment for any plants and animals or any mud that they might be hiding in and remove it. It's pretty simple. And the other thing, especially if you're fishing, is to make sure that you drain all the water before you leave those lake landings. Because remember, things like baby zebra mussels are so small that they're not visible to the naked eye. So the easiest and most simple thing we can do is make sure that we never move invasive species. Interestingly, Wisconsin does have a program called Clean Boats, Clean Waters. They have paid staff and volunteers at our landings throughout Wisconsin that help remind boaters to take these very steps. Cisco, one of our friends, is out at a landing up in Waupaca, and I think he'd like to share a little bit more about Clean Boats, Clean Waters. Check it out.
Clean Boats, Clean Waters Vice. Hello, this is Cisco. Cisco is a watercraft inspector. He loves sitting at the boat landing talking to people about the laws that Wisconsin has in hopes of preventing the spread of invasive species. But he's worried. He knows there's invasive species in some of our lakes, like Eurasian water milfoil, curly-leaf pondweed, zebra mussels, spiny water fleas. So he talks to boaters, helping them learn what they need to do, because we spend a lot of money in Wisconsin preventing the spread of invasive species and also getting them out when they get into a lake. So let's listen to Cisco's thoughts as he works with this boater. Gosh, knowing there's some invasive species in this lake, I hope this guy knows what he's doing. Because, some people know what the laws are, Yeah, but not everyone is quite so, they're not like always the sharpest hook in the tackle box, if you know what I'm saying, yeah? So let's watch this guy, and, sometimes we need to talk to him, but gosh dang it, he didn't even look, eh? Hey, you, come back here. I gotta get this guy. Hold on. Hey, you, come back here. Hey, yeah, look at this. Come here. Look right here. Look, you didn't even look at this, Look at these plants. Did you see this? Oh, you didn't know you need to take them off, eh? Well, in Wisconsin, you need to remove all aquatic vegetation from your trailer, motor, all equipment, and you need to drain the water too, and that includes from your live well if you got fish. You can't be transporting them alive. So, hey, now that you know, thanks, and keep our lakes clean, okay? Have a good day, and clean boats, clean waters.
So, now that we heard from Cisco, and we know a little bit about what we can do, I want to give you guys a little pop quiz. So, you're leaving a lake. What can you do to help prevent the spread of invasive species? That's right. We want to make sure that we inspect our equipment and remove any plants, animals, or mud that we find, and drain all the water from our boat and any of our equipment. And then, of course, make sure that we never move any of these things from one lake or water body to another. Now that you guys know a little bit more about what aquatic invasive species are and how they can impact our lakes and rivers, I hope that you guys help keep our lakes clean and healthy. Thanks for watching.